It's that time of year where we start thinking about who the Pirates are going to go after in free agency. So I'm going to give you some of my free agent targets, why the Pirates should go after them, and why they would be good fits, and what it might just take to get them on today's episode of Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, everybody here on the Locked On Pirates podcast. My name is Ethan Smith. You can find me on Twitter right there at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates from a lifelong fan to lifelong fans just like you. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Tonight's episode, it'll be out around 5 or 6 o'clock Eastern time. But it's one of those episodes where we're going to be talking about something that you could come back and look on throughout the entire offseason, because on today's show, we're going to be going over some free agent targets that I think the Pirates absolutely need to go look at. And a big reason why I wanted to go ahead and get this show out, it's November 11th. And thank you all, by the way, before we even start this show, thank you all for being patient with me. Been going through a weird period over the last couple of weeks, so sorry for the lack of shows. But as you saw, if you follow on Twitter, you will be getting a show Sunday or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That will be the schedule throughout the rest of the offseason until we are no longer 5 days a week. And then when we go to 3 days a week, I will let you know what that schedule is. But we are back. So you'll have this show today, then you'll have a show on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and so on. So thank you all again for being patient with me, and thank you so much for always tuning into this show. But I wanted to start with free agent targets here because I do think it's important now that we're at November 11th of the wonderful year of 2024. You could take that as sarcasm. You could take that as realism, however you want. I don't know how your year's going. Let me know in the comments. Just let me know how your year's going. But rest assured that you know that the Pittsburgh Pirates are in that time period, as well as the other 29 teams in Major League Baseball, where you're starting to look at these free agents. You're starting to look at what the market is offering you. You're going to start seeing guys sign probably over the course of the next month, not really in bunches, but you're going to start seeing some of those signings where it's going to set the market. It's going to let teams know, okay, this is the market for first base. This is the market for the outfield. This is the market for starting pitching. And teams like the Pirates are going to learn all this and kind of figure out, okay, who's out of the picture, who's in the picture, who are guys we really want, are we willing to pay on what the market is giving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So with all that said, right now it is very hard, if you're a fan of any of the teams in baseball, to not go and look at a guy like Roki Sasaki. Now, got his big start at the World Baseball Classic for Japan, in Miami in 2023. Really, that's where a lot of people's eyes started kind of gravitating towards Sasaki because he was just phenomenal during the WBC tournament. And throughout his time in Japan, he's just been a phenom. That's what he's been. He's another one of these Japanese pitching products that is going to come over here and is going to be a very, very strong pitcher. We've seen Yu Darvish be like this. We've seen most recently Yoshinobu Yamamoto with the Los Angeles Dodgers come in and get a massive contract for his services from Japan. Now, the difference that a lot of people I don't think are realizing with a guy like Roki Sasaki is he's under the age of 25. And it's an interesting choice on his end, because if he decided to just wait a little bit longer, say until he's 25 or 26, much like we saw with Yamamoto, then he could get a Yamamoto-like payday from a team. But because he's under the age of 25 and due to international signing rules, he is only allowed to sign on a minor league contract. So really, it's going to come down to that international bonus pool money, which is very interesting because you start to wonder, okay, how do the Pirates kind of fixate themselves in the international bonus pool spending spree, and where do they fit? Well, if you start looking at it, the Pirates actually are in a pretty decent spot. They're in the top 5 to 7 in international signing bonus money. So they could easily maybe move on from somebody and try to go get some more international spending money from another club if they wanted to. But now that you see how this works with Sasaki, international spending pool money is almost going to be like trading for a top prospect at this point. So if you start seeing trades and you start seeing acquisitions being made of international signing bonus money, that's where it's going to be going. Is it's going to be to go to Sasaki. Now, you do look at where he comes in here and what's going on. You're not going to see him posted, I believe, until January. And the Pirates getting him, I know what a lot of you are probably thinking already. Why would we go out and get a starter? We already have starting pitching. Why not make it better? And that might be a little bit of a hint at something I'll talk about on Thursday when we talk about trade targets. Why not make it better? Why not just go out and make this pitching staff an absolute gauntlet? We saw the playoffs. We all did. None of the teams that were really in the playoffs had a superior starting pitching rotation to what the Pirates had. I mean, I would take Skeens, Keller, Jones, Ortiz, and Falter over a lot of what I saw in the postseason. Now, obviously, some of that was due to injury. Some of that was due to the fact that they just didn't have good pitching staffs, and you kind of saw that weed itself out throughout the postseason. But if you're the Pirates and you want to get in on a guy like Sasaki, I think you do, because right now you can get him. This is not like he's just a flat out free agent being posted where he's going to be out of your price range. If he decides, hey, I want to go to Pittsburgh and you're going to give me $6 million of international signing bonus money, he can do that. And you look at some of the articles that we've seen on Sasaki and what's been going on, and a lot of analysts, a lot of people that are close to the situation or appear to be close to the situation seem to be suggesting that money is not really the big thing for Sasaki. And that's a big reason why he wants to go ahead and get statewide and go ahead and make the move from Japan to the U.S. to play, because he knows he can get that payday later. Now, it's an interesting way of thinking about it, because you start wondering, okay, well, is an injury going to come into play here? This kid's good. I mean, he has a phenomenal pitch mix. He dominated in the WBC. He dominates in Japan, which, mind you, folks, is a very good baseball league, clearly, because it produced Yamamoto, Darvish, Shohei Ohtani, among many others. So you start wondering, okay, what kind of impact does he have for the Pirates? Well, then you're looking at a rotation of Skeen, Sasaki, Jones, Ortiz, and and Keller. I mean, that is a top 5, if not top 3 rotation in all of baseball. And you can do it for your international signing bonus money that you are among the top in the league in. You can make it happen. And if you want to really go for it, go for it. Now, how good of a chance do I have this happening? Not a lot. I'll just be blatantly honest. I think he will end up either being a Met or a Dodger, maybe even a Yankee. But that's just due to me, I think, more on the brand side of things. It's more of he'll be choosing the brand rather than choosing maybe the best fit. But also those places could also be good fits, especially when you're looking at a team like the New York Mets. But a pitcher of his caliber is a good fit anyway. So if I'm the Pirates, I at least flirt with the idea of Sasaki. I at least go and look at it, because you cannot offer him more than anything more than a traditional IFA signing bonus ranging from roughly $1 million to $10 million. That is what he can get. He cannot get more than $10 million USD. So if you're the Pirates and you say, okay, let's get in the bidding war for this, let's see if we can get in here, go and do it. Why not? Why not see what happens? Maybe he says yes. And maybe you create one of the most nasty rotations in Major League Baseball, and one of the nastiest rotations we might see in recent memory if you get a guy like Roki Sasaki. Now, again, I don't think the likelihood is high, but you might as well try. I think it would be a disservice for the Pirates not to at least try to acquire him. Now, again, pitching, obviously not the biggest need that the Pirates have, but if you are looking at the free agent pool and free agent targets, it's kind of hard to ignore looking at a guy like Sasaki right now, because he is one of the top free agents if he gets posted in January, which all expectations are that he will, and would absolutely change this starting pitching staff by numbers. And it's already a good unit. It already is. But when you have the chance to make it a great unit, a unit that every 5 days at every single game, you trust your starter to go out there and probably give you 6 or 7 strong innings already, and then you throw Sasaki into the mix. Sounds like a pretty good match made in heaven for me, and that's what all 30 teams are going to be thinking when they're looking at Roki Sasaki potentially coming to their organization. And if I'm the Pittsburgh Pirates, I just want to see their name pop up once from a reputable source that they are at least trying and kicking the tires on the Japanese phenom. What are some other free agents that I think the Pittsburgh Pirates should target, and why should they go after them, and where do they fit, and why would they be good fits? We'll discuss next on Locked On Pirates. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com right now for all of your betting needs, because you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the National Football League, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you don't only have to bet on football, you can bet on basketball, college football, hockey. Bet on all of it. Hey, you can even bet on MLB futures while you're at it on FanDuel. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and an official sponsor, the Locked On Podcast Network. And welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And after making this your first listen of the evening, if you're lounging after work and listening to me, make sure after you listen to Locked On MLB. It rhymed a little bit. Sully would be proud of me, and he'll be proud of you if you go check out the Locked On MLB podcast, where he'll be covering everything going on in the MLB offseason as it pertains to all 30 fan bases from the Locked On MLB podcast network. So, now that we get away from the Roki Sasaki fantasy, because I would literally buy his jersey immediately if he comes to the Pittsburgh Pirates, I want to talk about some actual needs. Now, I talked about this last week in the loan episode that I had. Again, thank you all for the patience and everything, with you guys being the best fans that a podcaster could ask for. When I was talking about an offseason wish list that I had for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it was pretty evidently clear where I was going with what I want the Pirates to do this offseason. Now, Thursday, we're going to have trade targets that I'm going to look at. That's going to be a little bit different than this, obviously, because you're going to be thinking about potential trades, what players you would have to ship out, but what players are available, what's not available on the free agent market, tons of other things. But when you're just looking at the free agent market and what the Pirates need, they need a first baseman. Now, we talked about Brian Reynolds potentially moving over to that position. We've talked about Brian Reynolds being an option at that position. We don't know exactly if the Pirates are going to do that yet. We don't know if they're going to go out and get a free agent first baseman. We have no clue what the Pirates are doing at first base just yet, but we could figure it out with some of these signings, at least in the short term. Now, that's kind of been the story with the Pittsburgh Pirates over the last couple of seasons, is their short-term first base decisions. You've seen most recently Rowdy Tellez. You've seen G-Man Choi. You've seen Carlos Santana. You've seen John Nagowski at times. You've seen even Connor Joe play that position quite a bit at times. You even saw Jared Triolo flirt with it a little bit, but they just have not found a way to find a long-term option at first base. And free agency in particular, I don't think really offers it all that much either, because most of the options that you're going to look at are not sexy options. You go ahead and look on Spot Track. Is going to be a phenomenal resource for all of you when you're listening to this. You have Paul Goldschmidt. I don't think the Pirates want to get Paul Goldschmidt. I just don't. I don't think they have any desire to. I don't think they should have any desire to. And I don't think that they. And when you consider a guy like Paul Goldschmidt as well, he's already up there in age at 37 years old. He's a guy that had a declining year this year. So I think that already kind of tells you that Paul Goldschmidt's going to be a guy that's only going to continue to decline unless he gets in the perfect situation and really just has a resurgent season. I just don't see that out of a guy like Paul Goldschmidt. You then have Pete Alonso. Pirates are not going to be in on Pete Alonso. He's going to cost too much. Now, I already know some of you run to the comments and say, yeah, well, nobody should cost too much. Well, yeah, I get it. I know. But historically, Pete Alonso will cost too much money. Period. He's going to cost too much. It's not going to matter. He's going to go to the Mets, the Yankees, or somewhere else that's going to pay him money. Period. That's just how it's going to go. And that's what I think with Pete Alonso. You then have Anthony Rizzo. And Anthony Rizzo intrigues me minorly. Anthony Rizzo, already 35 years old, 0.19 WAR this year. Didn't really do all that much for the Yankees this season. Dealt with some injuries. Came back for the postseason. Had an okay postseason when he came back. Again, just goes to the age. 35 years old already. When does the wall happen? And I do think that Rizzo's swing in PNC Park would be favorable. I think he could end up being one of those under the radar options that could only cost you maybe about $6 or $7 million. Although namesake alone, I think he could get into the double digits in the millions. I don't know. I don't know on that one too much. You then have Jose Abreu. I'm good. Negative 1.6 WAR this year. Just terrible, terrible year in Houston. Ended up getting cut by the Astros at one point, and they even ate that $19.5 million that he was making this year. Absolutely not. You do not touch Jose Abreu. Josh Bell will be a popular name once again, seeing as that he was here before. He was a negative 0.9 WAR guy, ends up in Arizona at one point due to a Christian Walker injury. Just not really big on Josh Bell anymore. I think he's just more of a designated hitter. Pirates still have that with Andrew McCutchen right now, and they could explore other options DH-wise with guys like Joey Barton, Henry Davis, maybe even Eddie Rodriguez down the line. I just don't really think they need to have a reunion with Josh Bell. I just don't think it's fruitful for either side. I don't think that he really is going to be able to make any noticeable impact at first base if he were there. And then you have guys like Ty France. I mean, he was only a negative 0.1 WAR player in Cincinnati. Not a terrible year from Ty France. 30 years old. Maybe you do look at it, but I mean, you're looking at a non-tender as well. I mean, he was a non-tender guy. So, Joey Gallo, no. Joey Gallo, to me, I mean, just ever since he left the Rangers, has just not been the same player. Defensively, he would be a nightmare at the position. I just don't agree at all. Rowdy Tellez, absolutely not. You made your decision to release him a few days before his signing bonus was going to kick in. You're not bringing him back. Then you have Yuli Gurriel, too old for me, 40 years old. And you're going to hear this too old thing. Now, there is one player that I will let with the age thing just kind of go away, and that's Carlos Santana. Because it seems like every year that we talk about Carlos Santana, and every year we say he's going to hit the wall. When's the wall going to happen? When is he going to hit the wall? It hasn't really happened. I mean, in Minnesota this year, last season, obviously, a lot of Pirates fans wanted him to come back after being traded to Milwaukee. He's now 38 years of age. But he still hit 238 last year, 23 homers, 71 RBIs. Obviously, that plays if he can replicate that over a full season with the Pirates because they desperately need it. And career 785 OPS guy. I mean, this is just who Carlos Santana is going to be. And this is what kind of player he is. The OPS was a 748 last year. He'd be affordable for people. So you already have that in your book. And he's played here before, and he had success while he was here. Now, do I see the Pirates making a reunion? Probably not. I don't think reunions are really the way you need to think here when you're thinking about free agency for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And that leaves one player who I already mentioned, and his name is Christian Walker. Christian Walker, I think, is the guy. Already exceeded his rookie status a long time ago. You're looking at him being a free agent in 2025, signed by Martini Sports Management. I mean, he made $10 million last year. So you know he's going to get paid. But when you're looking at a guy like Christian Walker in 2024, 2.6 WAR, 251 average, 26 homers. So he's been very good. But a lot of people come in and wonder, okay, was that just a facade? He's had 26 or more home runs in every season since 2022. He had 29 in 2019, 36 in 2022, 33 in 2023, and 26 this season, and didn't even have nearly as many at-bats as he did in 2019, 2022, and 2023. So he's a guy that's going to give you power, even as a righty. I know a lot of people are going to wonder, okay, does the righty bat power play in Pittsburgh? It absolutely does. His OPS has always been a very, very strong number. It's been above 800 the last 3 seasons. His OPS plus has been north of 120 the last 3 seasons, and he's going to cost a little bit of money. Now, you have teams like that are going to look at him that need first base help, like the Yankees. You're going to see other teams come into the mix. I think Walker, you slot him in as your cleanup hitter immediately. I think he comes in as your immediate cleanup hitter behind Reynolds, Cruz, and whoever you want to lead off. But the Pirates need power in this lineup desperately. They need a first baseman desperately. Christian Walker would fit both of those. Christian Walker would fit tremendously in Pittsburgh because of just what kind of player he is. He's going to give you power output. He's not going to be terrible defensively. I don't think that he's absolutely phenomenal defensively, but you look at what he's done. He's not terrible. He has a .998 fielding percentage this year and a .995 over his career. So not a terrible defender by any means, but I'm not going to sit here and call him elite. But you're also not picking him up for his defense. You're picking him up for the bat that's going to give you 20-plus homers guaranteed. He's going to give you an OPS around 775 to 800 guaranteed. And you should spend a little bit to get him because it would give you somebody that at least for the next 2 or 3 years you can look at and say, that's our first baseman, clear cut, done. Don't have to worry about it. And that's something the Pirates haven't been able to do for a very long time. They absolutely should go after Christian Walker for that exact reason, because he would bring power to the lineup. He would be a trusted bat in said lineup. He could be an immediate cleanup hitter that could score runners for you via the home run ball, doubles, singles, however he needs to get them. And if he stays healthy, he gives you a long-term option at first base, even at 33 years old, at least for the next 3 or 4 years. And I think that's the kind of contract you're going to see him get, 3 to 4 years, decent AAV every single season. And we'll see what the Pirates decide to do there. But Christian Walker, I think, is one of those guys that the Pirates absolutely need to entertain this offseason because he just checks so many boxes that the Pirates need to check and could be my number one call for free agents. Remember I said last year they were going to get Martin Perez, and he was my number one call, and it happened. But there's another player, too, that is in there. But we're also going to talk about some other options they could find in free agency that I like next on Locked On Pirates. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats for concerts, comedy, theater, sports, and more. You get all-in pricing that'll toggle if you toggle the feature, there you go. It'll show you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So make sure if you want to go to a Steeler game, a Penguin game, I don't know, go see a comedy show, theater, or a concert coming to near Pittsburgh or near anywhere where you live, download Game Time, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you can get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off, and download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And welcome everydayers to the third and final segment of today's episode of Locked On Pirates here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where we're discussing free agent targets, players I think the Pirates should absolutely be going after in free agency this season, players that I think could maybe push the Pirates over the edge, maybe give them that edge to get over the edge and get over the hump. But we'll see. We'll decide. We'll see what the Pirates can do here with these players. And I already talked about Christian Walker and Roki Sasaki a lot. Carlos Santana kind of would be like my lowest that I would want to go for first base as far as free agency is concerned. Again, I keep highlighting that trade show you're going to get on Thursday. There's a reason for that, because I think you're going to like a trade that I have that could really help this team and a position that I just talked about. Now, when I'm looking at everything else, outfield, I think you want to look at. Shortstop, I think you want to look at. And if you watched North Shore 9, The Point, last week or the week before, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, you probably heard me talk about Ha-Seong Kim. Now, shout out to Andrew Destin, because I did say that I wanted to trade for Kim. Well, you don't have to do that anymore because he's a free agent. And Ha-Seong Kim, I would love it. I've wanted him to be in Pittsburgh for a hot minute, especially now that you've moved O'Neal Cruz off of shortstop and put him in center field. Kim could slot right into that position as an average, if not plus defender at the position. Career 15.3 WAR player, hit 233 last year with 11 homers, 94 hits, and a 2.6 WAR. Decent contact guy with a little bit of pop, would fulfill that position very well at shortstop because I don't want to see Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at that position. I just don't. And I think that's okay to say. I would rather see IKF at third, depending on what happens with Ke'Bryan Hayes. Now, with Kim, I don't think he's going to come at a massive price tag because of the fact that he doesn't really have massive power output. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have any at all. You look at his home run numbers over the last couple of seasons, and he does have some pretty good numbers there. I mean, he's been in the league since 2021. Home run-wise, he has 11, 17, 11, and 8 in his 4 seasons. So he's going to give you double-digit home runs up to this point. That's the kind of player he is. But the slugging's been around 370 to 390. That's kind of where he's going to lurk around. OPS in the 700s would play in this lineup. But again, the defense, I think, is where you really, really, really would love Ha-Seong Kim. And I think that he, wouldn't come at a large price tag, could be a player that the Pirates go and look for to fulfill that shortstop position if they don't believe that somebody else can fulfill it. And he'd be a veteran presence in the lineup. And I think that he could be a very good bottom of the order hitter in that lineup as well. Randall Grichuk to move to the outfield is an interesting one. Definitely a name that some people might shun at, seeing as he is already, how old is he? He debuted in, he's already 33. That's what I was looking for. I couldn't remember if he was 33 or 34, but very good season with the Diamondbacks, 254 at-bats, 291 average, 12 homers in those at-bats, a 2.2 WAR player, can play either corner outfield spot, won't impress you all that much defensively, but if you heard my show last week, I don't think you're really worrying about the defense all that much anymore. You got to get offensive production from these positions. You have to get something from the corner outfield. You have to get something from first base. Randall Grichuk could be that kind of player. Another player going back to shortstop real quick that I like a lot, Jose Iglesias. 337 average for the Mets this year, 4 homers, 26 RBIs, 91 hits on the year. High contact guy, average defender, could be a very good veteran presence at shortstop. Anthony Santander is another interesting one that I want to bring up to everybody because the Baltimore Orioles have been kind of moving away from some veteran leadership and more so leaning towards that young group of hitters that they have. Now, Pirates, Orioles, trade partners, maybe. Santander, though, all-star, mind you, doesn't have to be traded for. You can go get him. He can play first base. He can play the outfield. He's a right fielder naturally, would slot in very well as an outfielder with Pittsburgh and PNC Park. Had 44 home runs this year, wore almost a 235 average. He's going to hit home runs. That's what Anthony Santander is going to do. And if you've watched this show for a long time, you know I love my switch hitters. Why not go get another one in Anthony Santander, who does very well against both sides of the ball, has had a plus 120 OPS plus over the last 4 seasons. The OPS has only risen over the last 4 years. He had a 720 in 2021, 773 in 22, 797 in 23, and an 814 in 24. The averages went down considerably this year from a 257 to a 235. But when you're hitting 44 home runs compared to 28, that's the kind of give and take that you'll give when you're talking about a guy like Anthony Santander, who has hit 28 or more homers in the last 3 years, including 18 in 2021. So just shy of that. But Anthony Santander can hit from both sides, brings power to the lineup, can at least be an average defender, can potentially play first base or right field. Like him a lot too. But there's one player that I want to name right alongside Christian Walker, because if I have to give my top three, I name two of them. Santander's number 3, Walker's number 2. Folks, Tyler O'Neill is going to be my number 1. Tyler O'Neill, oh boy, I just hope the Pirates find a way to get him, because Tyler O'Neill had a very strong season this year. Obviously in 2023, dealt with some injuries, was in St. Louis for a large portion of his career, moves on to Boston, and just has a resurgent year. In 2022 and 2023, he had a combined 1.5 WAR. In 2024 with the Red Sox, 2.7, the second highest mark of his career outside of 2021 when he was an absolute menace with the St. Louis Cardinals with a 6.1 WAR. Home run-wise, 31 homers, second highest of his career outside of 2021, 61 RBIs. A lot of credit can be put to that due to the Red Sox just not having all that great of an offense. Did have his second highest strikeout total of his career, attributed to the amount of games that he played, but 847 OPS last year, 132 OPS plus, has a track record from going back to 2021. And even in 2022 and 2023, the OPS was still north of 700. It just was not as impressive as what he did in 2021 and what he did in 2024. Again, right-handed bat would bring massive power to this lineup. Much like I said with Walker, could immediately slot in as your cleanup hitter in this lineup behind O'Neill, Cruz, and Brian Reynolds. Could score those guys more often than what we were seeing from guys like Rowdy Tellez and others that were in that cleanup role like Joey Bart. And Tyler O'Neill, folks, he's my number 1 guy that I want to go get. Tyler O'Neill, Christian Walker, and Anthony Santander. You give me one of those 3. That's all I'm asking. One of those 3. I'm jumping for joy. 2 of those 3, look out. Ethan might get irrational about what could happen in 2025. But those are some players that I think the Pirates should be targeting through this free agent period that will be going on for quite a while. So we'll see if I'm right about some of those names that I threw out there, but we'll have to wait and see. Reminder again, programming note, I will be back on Thursday. Shows will be coming Thursday through Monday until we're not at 5 days a week. But thank you for always tuning into the Locked On Pirates podcast, everybody here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day. Follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates. Find this show on all of your audio platforms and YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, we'll see you on the flip side.